Disclaimer: this is a video meant for the purposes of commentary, criticism, and entertainment and educational purposes. The footage used in this video is owned completely by the copyright owners over at Mondo TV, Walt Disney Studios, Jim Henson / Netflix Studios. Please support the official release. Disclaimer: before this video begins, this review is going to contain moments of ranting and raging. If you're not a fan of that type of content, then be prepared. And remember, in the end, it's all entertainment. Previously on Henry Mockingbird's animated Titanic film review saga. It can't be worse than this movie, can it? Could it? I'm not gonna tempt fate like I did with my Titanic The Legend Goes On review. But if it is, in fact, worse than this movie, then, ladies and gentlemen, I beg you, I implore you, pray for me tonight. This movie is just... You're probably wondering what my thoughts are on the animated Titanic series, Fantasy Island. But all I can say is, screw that noise. I tried watching it for a review. It was boring as all sin, and I just couldn't make a TV Treasures review out of it. And the fact that this movie not only led to a rip-off of itself, a sequel, and a TV series is something that only the world may never know. And now the finale to the animated Titanic review saga. I'm gonna need some help for this. I know just who to call. Making their way.
Yeah?
Hey, Roddy. Henry Mockingbird here. I saw you haven't reviewed anything in September, and I got just the thing for you.
Right. Swigert, is this you? Look, this isn't very funny, man. I'm hungover. I'm still in recovery from that god-awful Velma review. And if you were gonna pull this crap, you could have at least said you were Linkara.
Huh? I thought you didn't drink.
I thought so, too. Did you know Tropical Punch Kool-Aid can ferment?
Okay, then. So long.
That wasn't enough. Hello, I'm Henry R. Mockingbird, your host with the mustache here, and welcome to HM Reviews. And boy, do we got ourselves a doozy today. I have quite the trash pile I gotta take out with this one. So, introducing someone who is famous for taking out TV trash, joining me for this review is Roddy from TV Trash. Welcome him.
Okay, I was a bit hesitant at first, but after you told me the title of this animated series, I'll admit I was intrigued. Premiering in 1977, Fantasy Island was all about a mysterious island where the elite and others could have their wildest dreams come to life. Clearly inspired by The Love Boat, the show made a household name out of Ricardo Montalban as the island's caretaker, Mr. Rourke, as well as Hervé Villachet as his diminutive assistant Tattoo and his signature phrase, "Deplane, deplane." The series has been remade multiple times in this century alone, including a horror-themed prequel movie in 2020 and a sequel series the following year. I guess it makes sense that an animated version was apparently produced back in 2010, so I guess we might as well take a look at what the Fantasy Island TV series was all about. What are you smiling like that for? We open with a helicopter zoom-in of our title island as we are shown a close-up of... Wait, did that boat say... Okay, that dog looks familiar. Really, why is this dog just getting my blood boiling? It's not Balto. I know it's not Balto. Anyway, the dog is soon joined by... What the f***?
What a surprise! A surprise? What have you been thinking about?
Tentacalino!
I was thinking about the Titanic sinking using my imagination. What?
Mockingbird!
Yes?
Is there something you neglected to tell me?
Alright, let's do a bit of a recap for those who are new here.
Do you remember those god-awful animated Titanic movies I reviewed a while back? No, not the one with the rapping dog, the other ones. The one with the rapping shark, who supposedly caused the Titanic to sink, and a Mickey Mouse baby-faced giant-sized octopus puts the Titanic together so that everyone can make it out alive. And that movie was followed up by a sequel, In Search of the Titanic, aka Tentacalino, where the couple from the first movie discover Atlantis. And just in case you think I or you have lost your mind, I recommend you watch mine or literally anyone else's reviews of these movies. Spoiler alert, but I don't think you really actually care, but the ending of that film had the couple and all of the gang pretty much reserved on an island so that they can pretty much avoid World War I or something. And just when we all thought that was the end of Mondo TV's terror.
So, yeah, more than 10 years after that sequel movie was released came this thing! An animated series by Mondo TV, an Italian studio that outsources its animation to North Korea, which is illegal in the European Union and landed them a huge fine in 2024. Just so you know what we're dealing with here. Fitting how I'd like to send a certain person to North Korea right now!
Oh, ain't I a stinker?
So the first episode is just a recap of the two animated movies, and I will actually say it makes perfect sense for them to need to do this, because anyone who actually watched those movies would rather marathon watch Be Cool Scooby-Doo episodes on loop than have anything to do with this series!
As Roddy points out, they do a recap of the movies. And it's bad enough I gotta relive all of this insanity all over again, but they have to use footage from the movies instead of recreating footage. And they add new dialogue and voices. Because, you know why? Because consistency is key at Mondo TV. And they also use sequences where the characters weren't even there for. In fact, if my memory serves me right, either Ronnie, Top Connors, Smile the dog, or Tentacles even knew each other. In fact, the only two who did know each other was Tentacles and Ice Teeth. And Ice Teeth's plan of Tentacles throwing an iceberg at the Titanic is literally what caused the Titanic to sink. All of this should have been a traumatic experience for them, not some incredible adventure.
The actual story begins. As the mice who came along with the humans are hunted down and harassed by this living cloud who considers them trespassers on the island, and then they find an underwater cave containing hidden treasure? And the cloud is working with this pirate ghost who I think was killed by his own crew and claims the treasure as his? This was supposed to be based off the Titanic, right? This isn't just losing the plot. This is the plot checking into an insane asylum 10 years ago!
And last I checked myself into an insane asylum when I reviewed the last movie. You heard him right here, right now. You didn't mishear anything. There is a living cloud in this show who looks like the decapitated head of Princess Leia crossed with MODOK from Ant-Man 3, who's always messing around with our heroes, and her boss is, and I cannot believe these words are about to come out of my mouth, a ghost pirate.
You best start believing in ghost stories, Miss Turner. You're in one.
Named Captain Francis.
Am I dead yet?
It becomes clear pretty quickly that this was originally meant to be a third movie in their series that someone at Mondo Studios or elsewhere decided should instead be made into an episodic TV series. Because they wanted to torture audiences for 26 episodes instead of just 80 minutes.
Editor's note. I'm sorry I have to interrupt Roddy, but according to my research, Mondo TV's Fantasy Island was never intended as another animated Titanic movie, but they ended up stretching it out into this TV show. But given how padded this show is, that honestly would not surprise me.
As a result, the story is stretched out far beyond what it was meant to be, and it drags horribly as a result. Every episode starts with as much as 2 to 3 minutes of recap with very little dialogue or exposition whatsoever. Then, once the episode itself really starts, there's usually another minute or two of just pan shots with the show's sleep-inducing soundtrack before any of the characters actually do or say anything. And even when that happens, there are usually these pauses of multiple seconds in between the characters' lines. I know that doesn't sound like much when I say it like that, but trust me, it weighs down on you and makes everything incredibly tedious.
Plus, there are some moments that shouldn't be treated as big moments that are treated like a threat. Like, for example, there's an episode where Olaf, the floating cloud that we mentioned earlier, and she meets one of Don Juan and Elizabeth's kids, that being their daughter. She meets her, and the moment she comes close to Don Juan and Elizabeth's daughter, out of nowhere, she starts crying her eyes out the moment she hugs her. Like, she is overwhelmed and so beyond happy. And this moment is treated like it's a threat. It's treated like it's a storm, like a twister or a rainstorm. And she continues crying. And they drag this out for so freaking long. And this is one of many of the filler episodes. Like, this whole series is nothing but filler. Speaking of which, let's talk about the characters. There really is not anything to say that hasn't been said before. They're all the same. The only characters that are actually worth talking about are Don Juan and Elizabeth's kids, Louis and Merville. And both of them look like they don't even belong in the same universe as the rest of the characters. They look like they belong in a rejected anime, especially with the big eyes. Both of them age really fast. One episode, Merville's a little girl, and the next episode, she's a preteen. Also, the fact that Louis is a little boy, and then he looks like a preteen as well. Also, the fact that both of them share the same traits as their parents. Both of them can breathe underwater, and both of them can talk to animals.
Finally, the episodes themselves never have a real ending point. They all just sort of stop at whatever point in time the plot is at the end of the episode's runtime. I haven't seen story structure this bad since all the way back with Cop Rock, and I really did not need to be reminded of that debacle as well.
That's another issue with this show. Every storyline, all the stuff that's going on with the good guys is really boring and not very engaging or interesting. There's hardly much of a story happening. There's no conflict, no stakes, no sense of urgency. It's normally just Don, Juan, and Elizabeth and the gang mostly just living their lives on Fantasy Island. And like I said earlier, it's not interesting and it's not engaging at all. And the reason it's so beyond boring is because they just have characters doing the most random, mundane stuff just to fill out the length of an episode. And the only story we do get before the villains show up, which I'll get to them, is the Cloud being an utter annoyance to them, and the ghost pirate he's working for. The only time that the show actually has something resembling a sense of urgency is when the old villains, Mel Travers and his goon, Jeffrey, get their memories back from the last film and they meet up with the Sharks, that being Ice Teeth and his gang. They're the only characters who, oddly enough, I actually felt something for. Don't get me wrong, they're not interesting characters, nor are they good, but whenever they're on the screen, we actually get a breather from whatever the good guys are doing, and they're the only characters I actually kind of had any kind of investment in until the finale happens.
Sit down. I don't give a damn about spoilers.
Sit down. You need to hear this.
This is where the show goes from boring to stupid to irredeemable. Like anything I thought was at least bearable or at least passable, like the villains, is ruined in these last 2 episodes. You ready? Let us begin.
You see, towards the end of the series, like the episode before the finale, you have the Baron and his goon kidnap Lewis and Merville, but they are saved by the Atlanteans, who framed them for stealing cheese, which was Ice Teeth and his gang's doing, since they wanted to know where the Baron was, and was asking the mice in exchange for cheese. So yeah, our main characters are guilty for framing them for a crime they didn't commit. Our heroes, ladies and gentlemen. After that, the Baron gets arrested and is sentenced to an insane asylum, which in the season finale, Pingo breaks out. Or, more specifically, Pingo breaks him out of jail alongside his goon, Jeffrey, and him and Ice Teeth and his gang of sharks are put on display like they're animals in a zoo. And shock of all shocks, This was a terrible idea, something even the show calls out Pingo for doing.
He did not have to kidnap the Baron. Now everyone is talking about the disappearance and about all that happened.
Because of Pinchio, we will have ships from half the world over our heads.
Because of Pingo's stupidity, they are all in danger of exposure. So the king makes the ultimate decision. He decides to return the Titanic to society.
Pardon me if I ask, but
I think my brain just broke hearing all of that.
Yes, he actually decides to return the Titanic to society. And everyone is against this idea, which is the most realistic reaction they've ever given in this whole dumbass series. And they're all like, hell no! Especially Francis, who objects to the whole idea. But because he of some slip about the law of the sea or whatever, after doing some research by a book, the king decides to make Don Juan and Elizabeth, the sole owners of the Titanic, make Francis the captain, and the king gives Francis a new body, a brand new body. He brings to life a dead person.
Does nothing stay dead anymore?
Dead person. And they treat all this like it's a grandiose event, with them getting the king to the city in a parade. And even though I feel so freaking dirty for giving this ending the least amount of credit, at least Ronnie can spend time with his family, so at least it fits into the continuity of the first film. But it sure as hell doesn't explain why he is old in that first movie when he is supposed to be immortal and can never age. And I don't know how they can call the Titanic a disaster when everyone has survived in that first film. But it's now owned by an immortal couple and their fast-aging children. Ugh. Sorry, folks. I would give a final verdict, but my brain is broken.
It's bad enough that someone out there thought those animated movies were worthy of being followed up by a full series, but giving it the same title as one of the most beloved cult shows ever just adds insult to injury. It makes me want to chase the creators round the moons of Nebula and through the Atari's maelstrom before I'll give them up for subjecting me to this torture!
I've recovered. I'm sorry, Roddy, that I had to drag you into this. I attempted to warn you.
The curse of the internet reviewer, I suppose. But after dealing with this and that Velma debacle, I think I'm gonna spend the rest of this year reviewing nothing but Phineas and Ferb movies. Rowdy out!
As for me, I'm gonna spend this next summer watching James Cameron's Titanic, because after this, I'm going to need a palate cleanser. I will take this movie any day of the week over any of this animated Titanic trash. I'm Henry R. Mockingbird, your host with the mustache, signing off.